Good morning. How is everybody? This is the Green Home, Eco-Inspired Living. How do we live eco-inspired living without taking action? I'm glad you're here. I am working on getting our guest here. She is not answering, so it's interesting. So trying to figure out, but my good friend may come on. So let's talk a little bit about Green Home. We started this out of Earth Day. My name is Lynn Chittick, if you haven't been on here. And we have had some amazing shows already, and I'm just so thrilled to embrace all of you. I'm going to bring my eco-inspired oils over because I think those are something that I have been so excited about. And I'm putting on Abundant. There's a lot of changes in everyone's lives right now, and I think Abundant needs to be very much part of all of our lives. What you do is you put a drop in your hand, and then you just breathe it in. One of my favorites that I've been using a lot is Valor, and both of them are very strengthening. So I'm putting oils on. I'm waiting for Aliki Ko. Aliki Ko was to do the show with me. And I've invited my friend Joel Woolner. So hopefully he'll pop in. And there he is. There he is. Woo! This is awesome. Okay. Well, you don't have, I'm on wire. You're on wire. Good to see you. You've got some poetry.
Stop.
Can you hear me? Okay, he's having trouble here. Just a minute. So let's see here. He's just going on. Hang on. Hear me. Joel is a good friend, good macrobiotic friend for years. And I'm so eternally grateful. I'm really excited that he wants to come on the show. There's comments in the way. Hello. Yeah, this is great. So Joel, do you want to do poetry? Put your thumbs up if you want to do poetry. I can't hear you, but chat in the chat. Put your thumbs up. Yes, no? He's in the back office, so hang on. I'm not sure. So let's see. Ali Raza is saying amazing. Aliki Ko was supposed to come on with us, Ali. And hello, Ahmed Bardar. We're waiting for Joel Woolner. Let me just pop him up here. You ready to come in? Can you hear me? We should be on just, can you hear me? You're on live. It's Facebook Live. Joel, can you hear me? Hello. He's trying. Can you hear me? Joel is founder of Osawa Foods. He's been a macrobiotic friend for many years. I'm very excited to have him here. He and I live close, so we've been connected for a long time. He was going to read some poetry because he's an amazing poet. So can you read poetry? You're live, just so you know. We're here with you. So he's typing, and I'm just trying to figure out, he's having trouble with, so I think it's 9 a.m. and let's just see, he's having trouble with audio. So let's see. Trying to work that out with him. Just a minute. The audio issue is he's having, I think, read your poetry. It'd be great for you to just try that. Just read your poetry. Are you here with poetry, sir? Do you want to read some of your poetry? Can you hear me? I'm not sure if it's working. Anyway, Green Home, we've been here for about, I think this is probably our 10th week. We had a lot of really cool shows already. And Alex Jack came on with pandemics a few weeks ago. And I just want to remind you to go on planetaryhealth.com, contribute to them. It's an amazing opportunity. Bettina ZUMDICK was here, and Culinary Medicine School. She's an amazing teacher and health practitioner, and she did boost your liver function to minimize pandemic risk. And last week we had Ed Esco, and he joined us on the macrobiotic approach. And Joel and I have been practicing macrobiotics for many, many years. And I hope he gets his sound working. So we'll see what he wants to do. But I think what I can share a little bit is about how do we make a change in our own homes with a green home? And you have to start small if you haven't started a green home in the past. For me, I started buying dish soap. And buying dish soap without chemicals is really important. And I'm thinking many of you, some friends from Pakistan, you could start creating these type products and start researching what is a green home. Some of you might not even know. So I think that's important. I think when you start looking at taking action, you know, the simple action, it's really important for you to see what you really want to do with your life in a way that homes and development of homes, you know, raising kids without chemicals. Joel has also done that. Let's see if he can come on now. Not sure if he's willing to come on. So actions of impact is what we did for Earth Day. And when you start looking at Earth Day and what Earth Day represented, it was really about climate change and moving the climate, and Earth Day was there to celebrate. But I went, you know, I became a green home back in 1985. I was putting Ajax cleaner in, I think it was actually earlier than that. I take that back. My son was only 6 months old when I went green. And that's been pretty exciting. It's 38 years ago I had a green home. So we put beeswax in our home. We put on our counters. We created a non-chemical house. We started using organic food, so no chemicals in our food. And 37 years later, my kids all use green products in their homes. They don't use any chemicals in their homes. And I'm proud of that. I'm very excited that they live a green home, even now that they're married. And when you start looking at ecological sound practices, you know, spiritual practices, it's great. What happened to me is with our store is I had an organic food store and a kitchen and a restaurant, but then I had a sustainable store next to it. And that was 2002. And people didn't even balance the two. Even that many years later, people would either eat organic food and use chemicals in their house, or use chemicals and eat organic food, right? Did I say that right? Organic foods and chemicals and organic food. I put the bridge together back in 1983. And so when you start looking at this and you start bridging the chemicals in your food and your house, this is a big issue. Just a minute, my kitty's getting into my flowers and she's going to knock them over. She's being very silly. But anyway, you know, when you start looking at the beauty in our homes, look at what I got for my birthday. These beautiful flowers, and they're from a farm, and they're all organic. My daughter sent them from a farm that is local, that is connected. The flowers and everything are grown on a land that are completely sustainable. Now, when you start looking at that and start bridging a natural way of life, hi, Rabia. You can come on if you want. You want to have a conversation, that would be awesome. I'm trying to get Joel Woolner here, but he's not able to speak onto the stream. So I'm inviting people. I'm going to put the post here and see who wants to come in. I'll put it on the main stream. And let's have some conversation about Green Home. And I can share. You can ask questions. And I think that's going to happen until we get clear about our beautiful Aliki Ko. I'm waiting for her, but she's not appearing. She was supposed to be a representation today. So we're waiting for her. So let me put the messenger. Any of you can come on. We'd love to have you. It was Rabia's birthday yesterday. There we go. Now the link is there. Please feel free to jump on to our show and we can talk about Green Home. That's what the show is about, Green Home. So feel free to embrace. Let me see if Joel's willing to, if he's got his, can you come on, Joel? Do you put your thumbs up? Do you want to come on? Yes, no? Can you hear me? I'm not sure if he's hearing me still. Oh, that's too bad. So we're having a little bit of tech stuff going on. So please join me. You need to have Chrome. You can put StreamYard, the link that I put in there in the post. Please join me. We can have conversation. So as Aliki Ko is doing a sustainable project in France right now, she's gathering a group of people to do the work together. And she works on conscious gems. That's the name of her organization. I'm a mentor. I've been developing natural health and natural way of life for 37 years. I believe that we're in a crossroads right now with COVID. And as we heard from Alex Jack a few weeks ago, a lot of the bats that were in, my kitten's really going to ruin my flowers. Hang on just a sec. Hang on. No. Sit down. Sit down. These are other beautiful flowers. And the kitten likes to jump in and play with them, but there would have been water all over my floor. These are all organic as well from the Good Earth. My daughter picked these up. And so when you start looking at a beautiful birthday and both your daughters sending you organic flowers and beautiful flowers, that's my green home. My daughters know a sustainable life today and a way to keep their homes safe from chemicals, safe from, toxic materials. They all eat organic. They all have been growing their own food for years. They worked in my organic food business. I had a sustainable business. So they worked and went to the local farmer, got food with me at the farmers markets. That was a place where we could trade. So I would trade some homemade food and I would come home with big bundles of organic vegetables for the next farmers market. So when you're building a sustainable community, there's a lot of trade, there's a lot of relationships, there's a lot of relatedness to the earth, and people can really make a difference. As I started the organic food industry in Pakistan, and we've got an online store now, it's pretty exciting to start looking at what it takes to grow organic in land that was filled with chemicals. Now, America had the same issue. That's why I was hoping Joel would come on. He's got a tremendous amount of knowledge around the organic food industry. And I'm hoping he'll be able to come on. He's having technical issues with being able to speak. And so we'll just wait and hope that he can figure that out. But when you start thinking about the natural food industry, early on in America, Lundberg Rice and the early farmers that brought people together to grow organically, they were all having to go to farmers and ask them to grow without chemicals, including myself. And I went to many farmers and asked them to grow organic in America. a lot of the industry was started a group of people, and there were study houses, and Joel was in some of the early study houses, Joel Woolner. And the study houses in Boston were a place where community could gather together, get a house together, and start eating well together. And this was one way to study the natural food movement, in a way that you've got people to grow food. So later on when I entered the scene, it was about 15 years later than a lot of the early founders. That was 1987 is when I tapped in even deeper. I was eating organic from 1983, I started eating organic. But 1987 was my first cooking class with a group of people that really taught me about a deeper level of what is it to sustain our communities and sustain our health and sustain our living a powerful life. And for me, the 4 pillars of the torch, peace, health, environment, and technology, really represent that. And so I founded the Torch back in 2012 after working with a bunch of UC Berkeley students and taking them out to organic farms. And it was really powerful in 2009 to 2011 during my master's to do that, take them out to organic farms. There was an organic farmer at the farmer's market. And so the relationship to the organic farm industry, kind of happens like this. So this was the story of this particular farmer. She was undocumented Latina woman. She had an organic food farm in Hollister, California, and she was about to lose her farm. And so I felt really, really sad about how she was bringing the deep, deep understanding of food, health, environment, and to hear that a woman was going to lose her farm because she couldn't afford it, and she was producing this beautiful organic farm, I got really sad. So out of my theological study, I started working with her and how to make a difference. And I was a campus minister. So we put together a sustainable project with students being able to go out and speak. Some of the students could speak Spanish, so that helped a lot with me because I couldn't speak her first language. I think the gift of hoping that we are, looking at our organic farmers and saying, how can I be supportive because they're growing our food that we're eating, like that was my goal. So what happened out of that project, I also was working with a group of women. Aliki Ko, by the way, is supposed to be on our show as our main speaker. So I'm filling up space to see if she does appear. I'll probably end the show a little early. I don't know what happened. I hope she's okay. But she was supposed to be on our show today. Aliki Ko is from Greece, and she was supposed to be our speaker today. But something must have happened. This is what happens in life. So we send her love and wishes. And anyway, so I'm gonna fill the space up. Joel Woolner is here, and he's trying to give us some poetry just by writing. So let's see if he can write one of his poems, and I'll read one of his haikus to you. I don't know how well I'll do, but if he writes it in the bar, if you write it in the bar, Joel, I can give us a little bit of haiku. So send us one of your poetry. He's an amazing master of haiku. So it's fun that he's here, but he can't quite talk, but I can bring him up and then I can read for him. He can't get his sound connected. So we'll just see how that works. But anyway, back to this amazing sustainable project that I did in Berkeley. That was about the students of Berkeley. They were amazing. They came together with me and I said, this is my issue. I've got the homeless eating in styrofoam cups. okay? The homeless eating in styrofoam cups. Got the sustainable farm with a woman losing her farm. I've got women, undocumented women that I've been working with, and they were, really experiencing a lot of violence at home and a lot of issues, and they didn't have the community connected. So these are 3 of the issues that I brought my students. And the 4th issue was a health fair, to create a health fair for the local community with alternatives. So we put 4 projects together, and actually it turned out to be my thesis work. And it was an amazing project. I taught them a lot about sugar. There's a great book by William Duffy called Sugar Blues. And Sugar Blues teaches you that sugar is really a big cause of many, many things in our world today. I taught them a lot about sugar and how could we get sugar out of the churches, the mosques, the places of worship and the holy. And I really believe this is still my passion with the Torch family. Looking at sustainable projects, one of the ideas that we did was bring the students together. So this is a good thing for you to do. Bring college students together. Start asking them, what do they want for the environmental world? What do they want in their lives? My goal was working with students way back, 25 years ago. I started working with Cornell students, Wells College students, and developing projects around our local Ithaca area. And that started with organic food into their places of, students don't have a lot of time to cook, but they started learning from me by just having good food in their local region. And so they might have a little shop up at Cornell, and I would deliver organic food. They would see me at the farmer's market and know they could buy on a Saturday or Sunday organic food. And they started learning from me in different forms. The students at Berkeley, at UC Berkeley, did the same thing. So I had this UC Berkeley team, and we started off with a tremendous amount. I think we had 25 students, and it came down to about 6 of them. Every week we'd meet twice. And what we came up with is to visit the farm to see the issues so they could get their hands-on understanding of organic farm. Now, when we went out to the farm, the issue that we saw was they didn't know that you could grow food without chemicals. Like, they didn't understand that there were even chemicals on their food. They didn't know anything about genetically modified seeds, which I'd been working in for a long time. They didn't know anything about where their food came from. And this was like a revelation for me. This was 2010. That by the time we went and visited the farm, 2010, they didn't know where their food was coming from. And this, I realized, was many people around the world don't even know where their food is coming from. So you've got to first start and say, where's my food grown? And what am I doing? What am I eating? Are you eating pesticides every time you bring food into your house? I mean, are you putting that into your body? Ed Esco had a great comment last week about chemicals being stored in the fat, and any chemicals you use in beauty care, or chemicals on your dish soap, or chemicals in your even your clothes. I wash my clothes with all beautiful, sustainable, natural cleaners. So these are the industries that can be started in Pakistan. Ali Raza, let's go. And Muhammad Hal is here. So, thank you so much. Abia, these are products that you can start actually creating. The industry is in a huge gift here in the United States. I mean, I can go to pretty much any town and get natural products. Hang on just 1 second. I'm seeing 2 properties today, so I don't want to miss the woman that I'm seeing properties with. And I've got to do some moving, so this is a big journey for me today. But as I move and do some changes, it's pretty exciting to feel, what was happening with these ideas of industry growing up in a world of chemicals. The chemicals in the United States came in through the 50s. The industrial age brought a lot of chemicals and chemical factories. People were just making money, not thinking about the land, not thinking about the earth. There were always the backwoods farmers with all organic farms in the early industry of America. So this is nothing new. It's very old, but the sustainable practices started dissipating in the later years. And so bringing that back and going to farmers to say, can you grow food without chemicals? Can you grow food without genetically modified seeds? Can you grow food without any of that? That's what we did in America. I did it, and Joel probably did it, and many of us. And we grew businesses around import-export products, and that's what Joel's specialty is. He's an import-export person. And when you start looking at what Aliki Ko is doing in France, she's supposed to be the show speaker today, so I'm sorry that she's not here. I'm not sure why. But when we start looking at, what's happening now in our industry, there's so much more to do, right? There's so many more buildings and products and sustainable products that we need to come up with to have a green home. I put across the bottom, save water, and my son actually built a solar sprinkler. And he's an amazing entrepreneur. He's a solar engineer, and he actually designed the solar sprinklers, and they're really cool. So I'll try to bring those up for you. But you can see them on if you go into our page, at the bottom of the page, you can see actions of impact. You can see our solar sprinkler at the bottom. So when you start looking at what it takes to live a green life and what it takes for helping college students, I felt like my life was, the oyster, because I loved teaching college students. I still love teaching college students. I lectured in Pakistan the last 2 years all about this in organic food, natural way of life, how to sustain ourselves, how do we bring ourselves to the sustainable world, how do we bring businesses and create businesses out of, organic products, organic skincare. There's so much to do, and all of you can do it because there's room. There's room everywhere to grow a green, sustainable business. So our first farm excursion, the students went out, and one of the discussions coming back, one of the great discussions, is the farmer taught them about ladybugs. And ladybugs are amazing, how they create an amazing sustainable project within their own little microsystem, but they really get rid of a lot of bugs, a lot of diseases on plants. And so larger organic farmers would bring in a multitude of many ladybugs to be able to start sustaining their farm. And this is an amazing journey, slugs, all of those type things. At least for me, as an organic farmer, I wasn't an industrial farmer. I wasn't a large farmer. I was a small homesteading farmer. But using beer in a little can on my ground near my kale or my collards would keep the slugs away, because they would drink the beer and get kind of drunk. So this was one of the early, things. Companion planting is what I studied a lot, companion planting. And so growing foods like marigolds near different plants keeps a lot of bugs away. And so marigolds have odor, and so that's a really beautiful thing. But what the college students mostly learned as we started building a sustainable project with these 4 things, if you've just jumped on to see me, I'm talking about a project that we did in Berkeley with UC Berkeley students. And it's kind of what the Torch Family, my organization, kind of came out of, because it was just a phenomenal way of understanding the community in Berkeley and Oakland. There were a lot of gang shootings in Oakland. I met with gang members. the African American and the Latino families, there's gangs, and the shootings happen regularly in Oakland due to some of this racial injustices between each other, but also it's more from the larger body of issues that we've got in this country. And every country, I think. We've got many, many different ideas. The Black Lives Matter, I would love to have that conversation with Joel. I'm sorry he can't come on and be part of our show today, but the students at UC Berkeley meeting with me every week started just sharing some of the issues they were facing, some of the issues that they saw. We went and fed the homeless, and the homeless are fed in styrofoam cups. Well, homeless live in the homeless landscape, and those styrofoam cups are falling on the ground and causing a toxic land. And so styrofoam had to get out of the feeding the homeless because it was happening all over Berkeley. It's great to feed the homeless, but if you're going to put toxic things on the land, what are you actually sustaining them? And the food that they're being fed with styrofoam cups are getting infiltrated, with chemicals. So this was a really big impact. So here you've got your organic farm that we brought the students out. We fed the homeless and the styrofoam cups. We had to come up with how are we going to get styrofoam cups out of the People's Park? The People's Park was a huge issue of looking at what does it take seriously to use, green products. And again, as a food producer for many years, I'll tell you a short story. When I started, wrapping my food in plastic, I didn't realize how the impact was affecting me. I could taste the petroleum on my fingers, and I could taste that toxicity in my mouth just by wrapping food. It was coming through my fingers. And, you look at the sensitivity of chemical sensitivity. I still struggle with my daughter using chemicals in the house. I'll say my whole glands will swell up if chemicals come into my house. That's how sensitive I am. And we looked at apartments yesterday. We were looking at different places for living because I'm moving out of student housing. And I just realized the world is just filled with toxic chemicals everywhere. And these big high-rise buildings that they're building is just filled with chemical glues, and these students are all going to get sick. There were Stanford students going in there, and they're not going to know why they got sick because they don't know that chemicals in their outer world, chemicals on their dishes, chemicals in their clothes, from washing your clothes in Tide or some chemical, it's going to make you sick. I promise you, you're going to get some sort of cancer. You're going to get diabetes. You're going to get a lot of different things that you'll think it's just your issue. And it's not. It's a big impact. And so you've got to look at the overall picture of what it takes. And so Green Home with these 4 students. And so then we had the impact of the Latino women. We went through the 2008 crash here in America. And it was a bad crash as far as a fiscal crash. I lost a home out of it, actually. And so there were many people that lost a lot of money in 2008. And 2008, your ideas that came up out of that, when you're undocumented, when you're an undocumented person, when you don't have a green card to be in America, you basically cannot get a job, a paid job, because you don't have a social security number. And so you're on the streets to make the money yourself. So the undocumented community of the Latino families are huge in the Oakland, Berkeley area. And how they make a living is that many of the husbands will go out of the home and they'll try to do a labor work. So you will see the streets lined up around a U-Haul or Home Depot. The laborers, we call them day laborers. The day laborers go out there, and I've hired many of them to do garden work. I've hired them to do moving. I'll hire them this next week to help me move if that's what I'm up to. I'm not sure what Mama Lynn's up to right now. It's a little bit precarious. But I think for me, when you start looking at day laborers, in 2008, nobody was hiring because the cash flow was lower. So people weren't hiring those extra people to do garden work, or, you know, they weren't moving about as much as they were. So a lot of people didn't have work from that cash, you know, day labor job. So they would go out and they might have a few bucks to get drunk. They'd come home, they'd cause a lot of violence. And so the ladies that I was working with, there was a lot of violence in this 2009 2010 area. So I brought this up with the, you know, UC Berkeley students, and I said, what are we going to do here? You know, there has to be a consciousness. And, you know, I've shared this story before. I'm sorry if you've heard it a second time, but one of the issues that happened for me is one of the women started sharing her mother. She'd been taking care of her mom, and her mom died. The ambulance came and got her mom. And she said, if I was in Mexico, Mexico is what, you know, the real name, there would have been community around me. And instead I was completely alone, and I was a wreck. And I started weeping, and I think the 20 women that I was working with were weeping, and, you know, it's just a really painful process. And when you start looking at that type pain of women and people that are used to community, and I'm sure it's happening with, you know, the Islam community here, if people aren't connected to, you know, more people. So I think for me, that relationship between, you know, the connectedness, so that I brought it to the students again. We've got an issue. And there was a day when I was sitting in my window and I was thinking about this story, and there was a really beautiful paper star in my window, and it was actually All King's Day. And I was sitting there weeping about this story. And there was a moment, and God just, like, it felt like God just shone down and said, the star of hope. And the sun came straight down through that star. And I went back and I said, we can start a Star of Hope project with paper stars. And I came up with this idea that the students loved it. So we started this sustainable project on Star of Hope. And it goes like this, and I want you to start it in your own community. If you have 5 paper stars, I want you to pass out 5 paper stars to your most favorite people. And it doesn't have to be a family member. It's best if it's not, but you could. And you will tell them, as you pass the star to them, you're gonna make 5 more stars when you give them their star. So actually 6 stars per person. So you've got 6 times 5, which is 30 stars you need to make. And those stars need to go in the windows. You're asking them to put them in the window, and you're going to tell them, when I give you this star, I'm going to tell you that I've got your back no matter what. I've got your back to live a sustainable life. I've got your back if you're financially got trouble, if you've got an issue with, you know, a family member, if you need help, I've got your back. And the Star of Hope project took off, and students, the UC Berkeley students, made these elaborate stars, you know, paper stars. This one girl just made these amazing stars and taught us all how to make them. And, you know, they were so they could hang, not just in the window, but they could hang down and be in the air. And from what I know, the Star of Hope project is still running in Oakland today. So what we did with these 4 issues, we had the farmer that was losing her farm. Okay. We had the undocumented women. We had the church feeding sugar. And we had the, what's the 4th one? The sustainable cups, right? The cups. So we have the farmer that has CSA boxes. And so what we did, we asked her if we could have a farm dinner for her and give proceeds. So at the church, we made a farm dinner. And out of that farm dinner, we invited all people, including the undocumented families. But we invited people from all ages. So it became a multi-generational dinner. And it was all made from that local farm food. And what we didn't have, somebody brought a huge piece of bread. I'm not kidding. It was as big as this. It was huge. And the bread sat in the middle, you know. And earlier I've shared about the cookie dream. It was like, you know, if we could build a cookie in every town and everybody could sustain their local farms, we would have a much healthier society. This idea of the cookie dream started my store in Ithaca, New York. I had this dream, and I started up the store right after that dream, and really believed in farmers' diners and farmers' ideas and how can we sustain farmers. And my kitten is making more trouble in my room. She's being quite feisty. So anyway, the students came together, and this became an amazing 4 things. So the farmer was willing to give $1 per CSA box if we sold direct vegetables to the church. So the church had probably 500 members. And if you only had 100 members that bought food each week, and she delivered and dropped off the food at the church, that farmer could sustain themselves in a big way, because they don't have to pay for the farmer's market spot, which is expensive. They don't have to truck their food to a farmer's market, unpack it, sell it, then pack it back up, and then go back to their farm. They miss a step. $1 per box, $1 per sustainable project. What we did with that farm, with that dinner, I talked about sugar, and I brought all of the families together. So the people that were giving donuts to the children every Sunday after a church session, I just kept saying, we can't do this to our kids. There's too many diabetes and heart diseases. So they came up with that project with the no sugar, connection to church and mosque and ideas. This cat is really, really in the wild place right now. She's a kitten, and she's knocking everything off, everything. So she's pretty funny, trying to get my attention. I hear you, kitty. I just grabbed one of my flower essences, and it's stress away. So this is another flower essence. We talked about oils a few weeks ago with Penny Norkett, and she's a tapping person, and she knows oils really well. So go back and watch that show. But the project in Berkeley, the UC project, the UC Berkeley project, and the college students, we helped the farmer with a sustainable idea. We helped she was willing to pay $1 per box. So if we sold, say, $200 each week, 200 boxes, that's $200 to go towards the People's Park to build a sustainable project. And, to have green green projects. There we go. I got it off the table. To have green cups is such a beautiful idea. So the Styrofoam project got taken care of. The Latino families got the Star of Hope project. And, out of these 4 projects, we made a circle approach in our local region because, the gangs and the gang shootings and the issues around chemicals, and they're real. They're really real. And I really hope and pray that you really take living a green life serious, because a lot of the chaos that we have in our communities is based on sugar, chemical use, chemicals in our food, chemicals in our homes. And we don't see it. It's like the invisible monster. And I pray that you really take it serious and really see what it takes to live a green and inspired life. So I'll leave you with that today. I'm sorry, Aliki Ko. I'm not Aliki Ko. She's a wonderful speaker, a wonderful teacher. I'm sorry she didn't come on the show today. I'm going to leave the show a little early, and bless you. And next week, I believe we have our good friend, Shelley Darling. So let's hope we have our speakers back on, and Aliki Ko will, I hope she's okay. So we pray for Aliki Ko today. We pray for her well-being. We thank you all for visiting us on The Green Home. It's every Saturday at 9 a.m. If you're starting a project and you want to come on The Green Home and ask me questions, please feel free. It's a wonderful, wonderful show to be able to come and ask questions. Come and ask what your needs are, and what does it take to build a green home? What does it take to have organic foods? I've been doing this for a long time. I'd be more than willing to support you. So message me and ask if you'd like to come on and ask questions. We can maybe once a month we have a question and answer on how to build green homes. How do you build a green, sustainable life? I hope that helped today a little bit on my project that came out of my master's. That was my master's thesis. It was more extensive, but I showed how St. Francis and the care for creation and the care for this beautiful life that we have is so precious. And the Torch family is doing it in Pakistan. We had an amazing conversation last night with a group of us, and, you know, it's happening. And you have to see what we bring to each other from our hearts. We bring from our life stream. We bring from the sustainable goals within ourselves. These are powerful, powerful ideas to help each other. So build dinners together. Build something precious together. I can show up on a feed and I can teach you all something to cook. I was hoping to do a cooking class yesterday for my birthday, or my birthday 2 days ago. And it's the July birthdays, and, you know, it's been a powerful couple days with me transitioning. A lot happened, and I just pray for the world to be safe, pray for the world to sustain itself, pray for the world to create jobs that are green and living and sustainable, so that we all work in healthy workplaces, we all work in healthy arenas, we all work in a sustainable area of, you know, community that's loving and kind, and we're not infiltrated by chemicals and toxicity in our blood, in our bloodstreams, but that we are moving, living, vibrant human beings. So my home has been green a long time. I'm eternally grateful that my children have been raised in a green home since 1983. That means 4 of my children never tasted chemicals in their home. And this gives the gift of growing and sustaining one family. So do it for your family. It's an amazing, beautiful journey. Come up with new ideas, and I can help you. I hope you live from that beautiful, beautiful idea. You can find who's coming up on our Actions of Impact. I appreciate everyone for coming on the show. Eco-Inspired Living is our blog to really live and take action. Take your action today. Take an action of impact and take one chemical out of your house. That's all it takes. And say, I'm not going to buy this again. I'm going to find a new way. There's so many things you can Google now to make natural cleaning products, natural ways of cleaning in your house, and you can start teaching others and, you know, just start building it. There's room to do this worldwide. So that's why I started the show. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful moment. This is the only moment we have. And if our children don't have chemicals in the house, and they have organic flowers, and they have beautiful flowers for, you know, here are my kids sending me, look at this. These are all organic flowers grown on organic, sustainable earth. This is what I'm talking about. Don't you want your kids to bring you organic, beautiful flowers from your beautiful local shops that are all organic? Yes. Okay. Have a beautiful day. Have a sustainable day. Have a heartfelt day. Go into your heart and just think about this. Think about what it would take to have a green home. Okay? Blessings, light. I love this little, it looks like a little piece of wheat. It's beautiful. The preciousness of flowers. Sit by a flower today and you'll learn what the light of color is. And have a beautiful day. Take care. Thank you for having a moment with me. Thank you for being on Green Home every Saturday, 9 a.m. May this be a deep witness of your love for yourself, for society, for the ownership of taking action. Take an action of impact and live an eco-inspired life. Take care.